Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our next family chat. Today, we are going to be talking about the transition after college and what that looks like as a student graduating and from the Alumni Association. And so I'm Caroline Davis. I'm your host, and I'm the graduate assistant in transition programs. I plan and organize our family chats as well as our family newsletter. And today we have Ari G, who is the assistant director of the Alumni Association, and a UNCW alum, Brandon Schmidt, and I will let them introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. Like Caroline mentioned, I'm Ari G, one of the assistant directors in the Alumni Association. So I'm so grateful to be here with you all today. I'm actually a graduate myself, so I graduated from UNCW in 2012 with a bachelor's degree in communication studies. So I'm grateful to be here today.
Hey everyone, my name is Brandon Schmidt. I am a 2019 graduate, May of 2019 of the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. I am currently a business analyst for the Volvo Group in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I've been there coming up on 2 years.
Thank you so much for being here. And with them both being UNCW alum, they will have lots of great advice for you and your students. So to get us started off, Brandon, just for some context, after you graduated, you said you graduated in the spring. So what was life like for you right after graduation? Were you still job searching? Did you have that job secured? Things like that. Your mic is muted.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
I'm kind of a planner in the sense that not necessarily like week out, but 6, 10, 12 months down the road. So it stressed me out really bad to not have my next move like by the time I graduated. And so I had solidified my job that I was going to be taking as soon as I graduated. I want to say probably 3 or 4 weeks before I actually graduated. So yeah.
Awesome. And Ari, what did that process look like for you as well? What was your life like right after you graduated?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's fun to think back on it. I was one of the fortunate ones that when I graduated back in 2012, I was going straight into graduate school. So I had my plan, I was ready to go. I'd been accepted, I had my assistantship ready. And then I kind of found an interim plan for the summer nanny for a family here in Wilmington, which was a lot of fun. But when I graduated from graduate school, I actually didn't have a job lined up on graduation day. So there was some of that uncertainty there that, I wasn't quite sure where I was going to be. I was far from home and had to figure out, my lease was coming up. I wasn't sure if I was going to be staying in the city where I was, if I was going to be moving across the country, what that would look like. So there was a little bit of uncertainty there for a few weeks, but something that was really helpful for me in that process was kind of having that plan A, plan B, plan C. If I don't have a job by this date, this is what I'm going to do. Thinking about some maybe short-term jobs that I could do, where I might move, if there were friends that I could crash with for a little bit. So having those backup plans was really helpful and giving me peace of mind that I would have a place to be. And, I was confident in my skills that I could find something to do if I needed to in the interim.
And as you were making this transition from college into the working world and college into graduate school, what things fell into place really easily?
Sure, I can go first on that one. I would say the things that generally speaking fell into place easily would be obviously having a job lined up. Not to say that that process was easy, but in terms of when I actually did solidify that position and sign my contract, then I felt like, okay, now I can just go through graduation, kind of stress free. It was actually the dream job or the dream company, I should say. I wanted to work for the Volvo Group for several years while I was in college. And another thing that actually fell into place fairly easily was that I'm from Greensboro, North Carolina, originally. It's where I grew up. And so I just had, some moving parts in my life, obviously with graduating. I was dating a girl at the time, and she was going to grad school, and I knew I was going to be proposing later that year, wasn't sure when I would get married. And so in terms of a housing situation, I just decided to move in with my dad, ended up living with him for a little bit over a year. So obviously when everyone graduates, they won't have that available. But personally, for me, that was something that just kind of fell into place pretty easily. Those were two things for sure.
I think for me, some of the things that I was really fortunate that fell into place easily were kind of just putting my name out there of, hey, I'm going to be here for the summer. I'm going off to graduate school. So does anyone need a nanny? Do you need, is there anything I can do for the summer to help? And it just happened that a friend of a friend knew a family that needed a summer nanny, and it just kind of worked out. But it only fell into place easily because I was actively putting that out there that I needed something to do and that I was available. Had I not done that, I probably wouldn't have found that opportunity. So that did fall into place pretty easily for me.
So then on the flip side of that, were there things that were especially challenging that didn't go so smoothly? And if so, how did you overcome those pieces?
I can start with that one.
Sure. Yeah.
For me, I knew I was leaving. And so there was that interim time of, I'm here for a while. I'm actually from the area here in Wilmington. So I was staying at my parents' house, but I was kind of in that transition of, I'm no longer a teenager, I'm an adult, but I'm living at home, but I'm working, but I'm only here temporarily. I can't really set roots here. I'm getting ready to move down to Florida. And I remember, as a college student, I helped people with their transitions all the time. I was an orientation leader at Seahawk Link. So I helped people with those transitions, but when it came to my own transitions, those were very challenging for me. So I did a lot of like last trip to the beach and, last trip to islands and doing all of those kind of farewell tour things. That's kind of how I spent my summer. But it was challenging, and really just being okay with the fact that it's sad to leave Wilmington because we love it here so, so much. I'm so grateful to be back, but I didn't know that I would have this opportunity to come back. So really taking the time to be okay being sad about not being in a place you love so much.
Yeah, that's good. I think for me, the toughest part was the emotional toll of leaving. I'd poured for 4 years so much energy and passion into UNCW and time. It was tough leaving things like social circles and mentors and professors, my girlfriend, all those things were tough. And, I was going to a place in Greensboro that I did not really have those things, social circles, mentors, that kind of stuff. So that was definitely a little bit unsettling at first. The second part of that question, how did I overcome those things? Even during my time at UNCW, like getting plugged in for me was the absolute most crucial part of my entire experience there. I was a resident assistant and orientation leader at Seahawk Link. And everything, when I got involved in college, everything just started to fall into place. And so I had to do kind of the same thing in Greensboro, in my new city, in terms of getting plugged into the community, my company, things like that. And I will say, as a side note, my grades were never better than when I was heavily involved. So I just can't speak highly enough about getting plugged into the institution you're at.
That is a fantastic segue to my next question. So, and you kind of answered it a little bit, but how did your experiences at UNCW assist you in the transition?
Sure. Probably the number one thing that is applicable to whatever you majored in. For me, I majored in finance, but it really is applicable for anything you major in. Time management is the biggest thing that my experiences, and more specifically my involvement at UNCW, taught me. Somehow you're able to, when you're involved, somehow you're able to do more with less time, and that was such a good lesson to me, and I learned it time and time again. Another really big thing actually was interview experience, both as the interviewer and the interviewee, actually. That definitely served me well because although I accepted a job right before graduation, I interviewed for, I don't know, probably a dozen or more jobs. So it was really good to have some base level experience prior to going out into the real world, I guess.
Just thinking back to it, I think one of the things that was really helpful with that transition was, when I was at UNCW, I kind of I made some friends, but I wasn't the social butterfly everywhere. Um, but I was able to make some really powerful friendships here. And so when I was transitioning, I was able to kind of build on those skills to find my kind of niche whenever I went to the next location, and really find those people that were my people. One of the things I loved about UNCW was the size. It was that perfect mix of getting to meet somebody new every day, but also seeing someone you knew every time you walk down Chancellor's Walk. And I still think it's very much that way. So going into a much bigger school where there were a lot more students and a much bigger campus, UNCW really prepared me well for that, as kind of that transitionary period for me.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing your experiences at UNCW. Are there any, for lack of a better word, adulting skills or life skills that you had to learn that you got out of college and were like, oh no, I don't know how to do this? Were there any of those situations? And if so, how did you figure it out?
I can go first on that one. For me, I think 3 months after I graduated, I needed to buy a new car, and I had never bought a car myself. So I learned the whole process of researching what is a good car and applying for and getting a loan and all that kind of stuff. Really good experience to get. I, at the time of graduating, had not had that experience before. Did have some assistance from my parents in terms of knowledge and loan rates and that kind of stuff. And then just basic things like, paying bills. Although I had paid some of my bills prior to graduation, having 100% of my bills, and the lights will turn off if you don't pay your bills, that kind of stuff. Having that on me is just really good exposure. And like I said, I did have some help from my parents and some guidance and that kind of thing, but it was primarily on my own. And not that everyone will be in this situation, but something big adulting wise for me was planning a wedding, more specifically during COVID, which we did during 2020. So that's tough, but you learn, you adapt, you get through it, that kind of stuff.
That's very similar. I had to buy a car while I wasn't in Wilmington, where my family wasn't here. And so that was something I had to do completely on my own, which was a big learning experience for me. And then even still, as I've gotten older, buying a house, adopting a puppy, those are the life skills that honestly, I just Google a lot of things. And as strange maybe as it sounds, one of the things that I really learned in college was how to get the results I need from a search engine, and like knowing what to search to actually get the best results, not just like an Ask Jeeves type thing, which I know I'm dating myself at this point, but really that critical thinking to know like what's a good resource, how do I get the best information, what search terms do I use. Those are skills that I learned in college that I use every single day.
We're very lucky nowadays to have Google if we have a question, YouTube if we need to fix something. I'll hear my parents tell stories of how they figured things out when they were in college and after. And I am so thankful that there is more technology nowadays, because I don't know what I would do without some of it. So to switch gears a little bit from the transition to the Alumni Association, first so UNCW does have an Alumni Association. And so what does it offer for recent graduates and all of alumni?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first, I think it's really important to understand that the Alumni Association at UNCW is open to all graduates. There's no fees to be a part of it. Everyone's automatically a member when you graduate. So that if you don't remember anything else, remember that. As far as benefits, we've got lots of different opportunities. So we have chapters both regionally. We've got academic chapters, so you can stay connected to your academic units. We have 6 regional chapters. So if you're moving to either staying here local in the Cape Fear region, if you're moving up to the Triangle, we've got one in the Triad. So Brandon, make sure you get connected there. And we also got one in Charlotte, New York, and Washington, D.C. So for alumni in those regions, we've got groups that get together, they do happy hours, they go to baseball games, just fun events. And so definitely get connected there. We also have a lot of virtual programs that we've beefed up quite a bit here during COVID, and we will continue to do virtual programs as well. So all of that is a big part of the Alumni Association. The other thing that I think is kind of an underutilized resource is we have LinkedIn groups. If you put UNCW on your LinkedIn profile, that will add you to our alumni list. You can search that list for alumni at a company. So if you're interested in working, so Brandon, I know you said you loved Volvo and wanted to work there, you could have actually gone to LinkedIn, looked for UNCW alumni who work at Volvo, reach out, do informational interviews with them. I'm sure Brandon would say absolutely yes to a student who was interested in working for the company. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about what it's like. Definitely utilize that resource. We have almost 100,000 alumni, and they are all so willing to lend a hand to a fellow Seahawk.
I'm glad you said that. I would also recommend reaching out to your instructors and your professors, because I got connected with a UNCW alum working at an institution I was interested in working in. And like Ari said, he could not have been nicer. He was like, let's set up a Zoom, let's chat, ask me anything. And so that very much ask your instructors and join that LinkedIn group, because anyone that can give you any advice or tips or anything that's awesome, that they'll give it to you and you can take it for free.
Absolutely.
And so we have the Alumni Association, which first of all, it's free, which is not the case for every school. So that's really a really great resource that students automatically get. So now back to the exciting part of students are about to be graduating in a month. What advice do you have for graduating students?
Oh, that is a loaded question. Gosh, my biggest piece of advice, I think, would be to take the stress out of it. I put an undue amount of stress on myself. Honestly, probably when the second semester of my senior year started, I was just really stressed out about like, oh my gosh, I gotta have a job and I have to have every single thing for the next 5 years planned out, and just take that stress off yourself. If you don't have something lined up and you feel like, your calling is to go travel, do it, go travel. I kind of wish I had done a little bit of travel, honestly, in hindsight. It's a very unique time in your life where, once you kind of start your working career, obviously with some exceptions, but most people will not have multiple months completely off where they're not tied down to a job or a city or other responsibilities. So take the stress out of it. Yes, graduation is a big word and it carries a lot of emotions and feelings with it. But it should be a happy time, and enjoy the moment, soak it up, because it will be gone before you know it.
And I would definitely say, stay connected and don't forget to ask for help. We've been willing to help, reach out again to your professors, to mentors. I know graduating right now, especially, is just challenging. So giving yourself a little bit of grace too, of understanding that we are still in the middle of a pandemic and you're graduating from college. It's okay if you don't have something lined up right away, but again, have that plan A, B, C, D. You have the skills to be successful, and just have confidence in that.
And then on the flip side of that, a lot of our audience for Family Chats are families. And so what advice do you have for families who have students graduating?
I can start with that one.
Sure.
I would say, your students the best. So, if they need for you to say, just be the supportive person, just to be the listening ear. If your student is the type that needs a little bit of a push, but really being aware of, what they need right now, and being supportive in the way that they need you to be supportive, in the way that works for your family.
I would just say too, and this sounds really simple, but it's very important, is, stay patient, especially like Ari was talking about. We are still in the middle of a global pandemic. This is such unprecedented times. And, some people have that job solidified the day that they graduate. Other people, it takes 3 or 6 months or, whatever it may be. The process doesn't look the same for everybody, but They've graduated from a really good institution with a degree. That's going to do wonders for them. So just be patient, stick with the process. They will find their next step.
And then was there anything that your family did that was really helpful for you during this time of transition?
That's a good question. There were some things. Personally, for me, I would say my family was very good. I was talking about being supportive and patient before, but my family was really good about, they knew that I was like in, April or so leading up to graduation. They knew that I was interviewing for jobs and that kind of stuff. And, every once in a while I would text them, my family group message, and just be like, I just interviewed for this job, just got a rejection, like I didn't get it. They were really good with little texts, calls, that kind of stuff, of just reassuring me. They let me know in multiple ways, whatever way you need us, we'll be there, whether that's, through calls and text messages, or, in my case, my dad told me, if you obviously don't have a job, please don't feel like you're going to be homeless day one that you graduate from UNCW. It's okay to live with me for a little bit. So that was very reassuring.
Yeah, my family was very similar, and it was really helpful. One of the things that I absolutely loved that my family did is that, especially with their friends and the people that they talk to on a regular basis, when I wasn't quite sure what I was doing after graduate school, they actually kind of protected me a little bit from the "what's next" question. Because there is nothing worse than you are trying your hardest to get a job, and all anyone wants to ask you is, do you have a job yet? Do you have a job yet? It is the most exhausting question, and every time it gets asked, it's a little bit disheartening. So they were very clear with like family and that sort of thing that, we will let you know as soon as there's some news to share, but let's talk about something else for a change. That was, looking back on it now, I'm like, man, that was so helpful, and I'm so grateful for that.
Caroline, if there's one thing I could add to, a little bit of a different direction with that question, but parents and students, do not get discouraged by your neighbor's kid, or students, your friends getting those jobs. It felt like, to me personally, that I felt like every single person that I knew in college, every single person senior, had a job already, and they were all moving to New York City like the day after graduation. Do not get discouraged. I found out, kind of hindsight, that some of those jobs didn't necessarily pan out, or there were a lot more people than I thought in the exact same situation as me. Whereas like in April or even beginning of May, I didn't know what I was doing yet. Do not get discouraged by hearing other people's success and feeling like, maybe I'm not the most qualified candidate, those kind of things. You are, and the process will pan out.
For sure. As someone who is graduating this semester, it is nice to hear y'all say that. So hopefully that can provide some relief to some students and parents as well. Those are all the questions that we have today. I want to thank you both so much for joining us. I thoroughly enjoyed, like I said, as a graduating person, I really enjoyed this, and I think it'll be super helpful. For those that are tuning in, if you have a graduating student, I highly recommend following us on Facebook and Instagram, because we will be sending deadlines and things like that. You can find it all there. All of our graduation information is also at uncw.edu/commencement. Any questions you have will be there. And of course, you can call us and contact us. And if you'd like to sign up for the family newsletter, you can go to uncw.edu/transitions, and you click on the family programs tab and then the family resources tab, and that will be there. And we are on our Facebook and Instagram. I mentioned following us, and that is at UNCW Transitions. And if you joined us late for the family chat, it will be on our Facebook and our YouTube pages, so you can watch it whenever is convenient for you. And that is all that we have for you today. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next month.